Hi guys, it's Danielle and today I'm going to be doing my winter reading wrap up. She gonna be a long one. So I decided that I wanted to do a seasonal wrap up for my reading rather than a monthly one. I didn't want to have to film and post a wrap up every single month. I just thought it would be a little bit repetitive. This is my winter reading wrap up. If you're a little confused because you've just finished summer, it was winter here in Australia, it is now spring. I read almost 30 books in winter, which I don't know how that happened. I just had a couple of good reading months, and so yeah, there are a lot of books that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm gonna just jump straight into it so that this video is not unnecessarily long. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting off with June. June was my best reading month like ever, like in history. I read 14 books in June. I did read a few short books and I did DNF a book in June, but I still was really happy with my efforts for June. So let's jump into it. The first book I read in June was City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This one I had pretty high hopes for, and it started off really good, but it ended up kind of just falling really flat for me, and I found a lot of it really boring. The characters were interesting, but I just didn't really connect with them. I ended up rating this one 3 stars. I also have a full spoiler-free review of this one on my blog if you want to know more of my thoughts. I will leave it linked below, as well as any other book that I talk about that I've got a review of. They will all be linked below as well, but yes, that was the first book. The next book that I read in June was Their Fractured Light by Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman. This is the third and final book in the Starbound trilogy, the first book being These Broken Stars. Almost forgot it there. I listened to this series on audio and I actually really enjoyed the audios. It's definitely really cheesy and rude. It was definitely very cheesy and kind of cliche, but it was fairly enjoyable. I think I enjoyed the first book the most. It was fun, it wasn't anything amazing, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read was actually an anthology of short stories, and it is Begin and Begin, a Love Oz YA anthology, edited by Danielle Binks and written by various different Australian authors. I literally started this one last year and I read like 4 of the short stories, and then I put it down to read other things and I just never picked it up again. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pick it up. So I picked it up literally a year later. Overall, it was fun. It was good kind of to get a taste of different Australian authors that I hadn't read before. So I really liked that, and I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book I read was actually only my second 5-star read of the year, and this is in June. So I've been reading a lot of books, but I just haven't been reading a lot of great books, and it's a little sad. I don't know if I'm just being a lot harsher with like my ratings this year or what it is, but anyway, the next book is 1,000 Perfect Notes by C.G. Drews. I absolutely adored this book. It was fun and cute and heartbreaking, and just there was a lot of feels. I loved the relationship between the 2 main characters, and I really loved this one. Again, I do have a full spoiler-free review of this book on my blog, so I'll leave that linked below if you want to know more of my thoughts. But definitely pick this one up. The next 2 books I don't really have much to say about because they're very short. One of them is a poetry collection, one of them is literally just like a short story. First one is The Day Is Ready For You by Alison Malee. I was sent this one from the author, and unfortunately I didn't really enjoy it much. There was a few poems that I did enjoy, but overall it wasn't really my cup of tea. I think I ended up giving this one like 2 stars. And the next book was We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, which I probably butchered and I'm sorry. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars or something. It was great, but obviously it's a tiny little thing, so there's not a whole lot to it, but I did enjoy it. The next book that I read was the first book in the series, and I actually ended up reading the whole series in June and July, and that is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I finally got around to reading them. Definitely wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I kind of thought I was jumping on a little bit too late with these books and that I wouldn't enjoy them, but I did. They are a lot of fun. They're not heavy on the sci-fi, if that's what if you're worried about. It definitely is not sci-fi heavy. I loved the characters. They were all so much fun, and I think I gave most of them 4 stars. A couple of them I gave 4.5. Overall, really loved these books, really loved this series, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to reading them. The next book that I read was The Exact Opposite Over Kite by Laura Steven. Yep. This one was just a new feminist YA novel, and I love that there's so many feminist YA books coming out at the moment. The main character was super funny and witty. She was just a really great narrator and I really enjoyed it. Overall, it was just like a fun book with some important topics, like obviously feminism and slut shaming, and I really enjoyed this one. The next book was one of my most anticipated releases for this year, and it is Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco, which is the 3rd book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. When I first finished this book, I immediately gave it 5 stars because I just was so happy to be back in this world with these characters, and looking back on it now, I could probably drop it to like 4.5 purely because there just wasn't enough Thomas Cresswell in this book. This book was still so much fun. Yeah, I loved it, and I absolutely adore this series, and if you haven't read these books, I highly recommend doing so. Definitely also check out the audiobooks because they are amazing, and I just loved this. I loved it. The next book that I read was Found by Fleur Ferris. This is just a book set in regional Victoria, which is the state that I live in, and so it actually is set like an hour from where I live, which is really cool. Fleur Ferris writes YA mysteries, so this was like a YA mystery thriller, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, I gave it 4 stars. Pretty sure I also have a full spoiler-free review for this one. If you are interested, I will leave it linked below. The next book that I read, and the last book that I read in June, was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is basically a verse novel, so it's written in verse. It was a very interesting plot, and as much as I really enjoyed it, I would have loved if it was longer, and the ending was kind of open, and I'm not one to love open endings, so kind of wasn't a big fan of that part, but overall it was a really enjoyable, quick read. Like I said, it's written in verse, so you'll be able to fly through this one, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars also. That's June done. Moving on to July now. July, I didn't read as many books as June. I ended up reading 9 books in July, but 6 of them were actually audiobooks. The first book that I read was One Tiny Lie by K.A. Tucker. This is a new adult romance, and I enjoyed most of this book, but I really hated that both love interest and the main character were kind of in relationships when they started kind of seeing each other and getting feelings for each other, and they carried it out throughout the whole book instead of breaking up with the other person. I can't stand it. I hate cheating. I don't get it. Like, just if you're not happy with the person that you're with, just let them know, tell them, break up with them. Breaking up with someone is better than them cheating on you. Like, so I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. Like I said, a big part of it that I didn't like was the cheating, but I did really enjoy the story apart from that, so that's why I didn't rate it too badly. Next book that I read is actually, again, another series, another one that I should have read forever ago, and it is the Legend Trilogy by Marie Lu. I read all 3 books in July. Unfortunately, I was a little bit disappointed with these ones. I was expecting them to be a lot better than they were. If I read them a few years ago, I probably would have enjoyed them more, unfortunately, but they were still enjoyable for the most part. It was quite insta-lovey, and I felt that the romance was kind of unnecessary, and it was kind of just there to drive the plot. I did enjoy the setting and the kind of plot of the story. I think it was really interesting, but yeah, I ended up giving, I think, most of the books 3 stars, 3.5 stars, so yeah. Next book I picked up was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. Yes, I picked this up in winter. I don't know. I did enjoy this one. This was my first Morgan Matson book that I picked up, and I'm very happy that I picked it up. The whole story is kind of revolved around her past and what she did like however many years ago, and So I was kind of expecting some big thing and it was not, and it was kind of stupid. I did enjoy it. I still gave it 4 stars. It did make me tear up a little bit at the end there. It felt really real and it was a bit heartbreaking. And then just to continue on with Morgan Matson, we also picked up Since You've Been Gone. I listened to the audiobook of this one and unfortunately I didn't enjoy this one as much. I would have probably enjoyed it a lot more if I read the physical book. The audio was just not great. It kept like pausing, not pausing, but it just had these really long silences in really weird places and I just was very confused. Like I'd be thinking it was supposed to be like it was the end of a chapter or the end of a sentence or something, but then they'd kind of continue on and it was just really weird and it just kind of ruined it for me. But I still ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It was fun and quite enjoyable, but yeah, the audio just wouldn't recommend. The next book that I read, I actually don't own, but it is the 3rd and final book in a series. This is the first book, Sleeping Giants, but I read Only Human, which is like I said, the 3rd and final book. Again, I listened to it on audio. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed with the 3rd book. It just wasn't as good as the first 2. It lacked the action, and because some of the characters were gone from the first 2, I was really missing their presence a lot in the last book. So I definitely found it not as great, but I still enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars, but it was a little bit disappointing after 2 really awesome books. The next book I want to talk about is a book that literally everybody is obsessed with, and I pretty much picked it up purely because so many people were raving about it and loving it and it was just everywhere, and I was just like, okay, I've got to pick it up and see if this is as good as everyone's saying. And oh boy, it definitely was. It is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I listened to this one as well on audio and absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I highly recommend listening to the audiobook for this one. It was so good and it made me almost cry, and I am not a crier when it comes to reading, so I don't even know how to explain how much I loved this book. This was also another 5-star read for me. Yeah, that was everything that I read in July. Now moving on to August. There were a few books that I wanted to read in August that I just didn't get to finish because I was a lot busier than I thought I was going to be, but I still managed 6 books, which I'm pretty happy with. 6 is not a bad number. But yeah, let's just jump in. The first book that I read I listened to on audio, and again, I don't actually own this one, but I owned the first 2 and I wanted to listen to this one before I forgot a lot of what happened in the first 2 books, and that is Before the Devil Breaks You by Lyra Bray, which is the 3rd book in the Diviners series. And oh my god, first 2 books I gave 4 stars, 4.5 stars, but the 3rd book was amazing. Like honestly, I gave Before the Devil Breaks You 5 stars. It was absolutely amazing. I have slowly become absolutely obsessed with these characters. They are just so wonderful and I love them all, and I just want them all to be happy and healthy, and I just want them to survive basically. If you have not read the Diviners, I definitely recommend doing so, and I highly recommend listening to the audio. The narrator is absolutely amazing. She is just, honestly, it's definitely a new favorite of mine. The next book that I read in August was Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. Unfortunately, I really didn't enjoy this one. There was just a lot of it that just didn't sit right with me. It was a little bit predictable as well. Like I kind of guessed what was going to happen before it was revealed. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with that one. The next book that I picked up, again, I listened to the audio of, and it was The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It was fairly like emotional and the romance was really cute, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. It wasn't like amazing, I didn't absolutely love it or anything, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. The next book that I read in August was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and this one, if you like Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, then you will really enjoy this book. I related to the main character quite a lot in this book, but she did also kind of annoy me at times. Yeah, it was super cute and nerdy and fun and just really overall just a really good fun read. And if you haven't picked this one up and you're wanting like a super cute fluffy contemporary, then I definitely recommend picking this one up. It was just a lot of fun. It was fluffy, but it was also like kind of hard-hitting at times as well, just just in case you like reading it and you get like towards the end and you're like, this is not fluffy. Cool. The next book that I read was Lyra on the Offbeat by Becky Albertelli. This is, again, I listened to on audio. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. I think I gave it 4 stars still. Like, it was still a lot of fun. Mostly I just loved seeing Simon and all of the gang back together. It was fun. Again, it wasn't amazing. I didn't absolutely love it, but I did enjoy it. The last book that I read in August and the last book that I read in winter was Amy Rogers' Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. I just went on a Morgan Matson like binge during winter, and I feel like I should have read them all in summer. I don't know why I decided to pick up Morgan Matson books in winter, but anyway. This one I actually really enjoyed. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. There were like serious parts, but it was also really fun and light and fluffy as well. The ending for this one was kind of open, but I didn't actually mind it, which was really weird because usually I absolutely hate open endings. Just like give me answers and give me some kind of resolution to the story, please. I don't know, I still really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. It's probably my favourite Morgan Matson book so far, which I wasn't expecting because I feel like not a lot of people talk about this one when they talk about Morgan Matson books. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that is all. I'm really sorry if this video is super long, but I tried to keep my thoughts as short as possible. Literally I read more books in the 3 months of winter than I did like in the first half of the year. So pretty happy about that. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were, and if you liked this wrap up instead of like a monthly wrap up, or you would rather a monthly wrap up. Let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and comment if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you are new here and want to see more of my videos. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribed. Yeah, so, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!